ab workouts. That's how. Sorry, I could not help myself. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Subscribe if you're looking for more writing related videos because I'm sort of getting back into doing videos. Subscribe, seriously, because I can tell how many of you aren't subscribed. I can see you. Today I'm talking all about the middle of your novel, which can sometimes fall flat, which flat is not a synonym for sagging, so I'm not sure how that works. But anyway, the short answer to this entire video is planning. You avoid a dry middle, and let's see how many adjectives I can come up with throughout this video to describe a sagging middle. But you do that by making stuff happen in the middle, which planning really helps. It really helps. I know some of you are pantsers, meaning that you don't use an outline at all, or you use a very limited one, but hear me out. It's best to avoid a sagging middle, but these tips can also be used during the editing phase. So if you are a pantser, you can still use it during the editing phase. And better yet, you can just keep these things in mind while you're writing, during the writing process, even if you don't use an outline. A lot of these tips blend together or overlap a little bit, but each one of them is worth mentioning. Also, this is for genre fiction, so don't come at me saying some of the world's most well-known writers didn't do these things, because we all know of some of them that didn't. Even modern writers in genre fiction don't do these things sometimes, but there are exceptions to every rule. My little disclaimer. All right, that is enough with the chatter. Let's jump right in. Tip number 1 is to change things up. Introduce new challenges, reveal something to cause the main character to question their beliefs, go to a new location. The middle may seem dull because it's just not developed enough. Most writers roughly know their beginning and their end, and they know what's going to happen, and they know how important both of those are, but they kind of fall short in the middle phase. The middle is not just a path from point A to point B. This is the meat of where your character needs to change or discover things that make them change later on. So their character flaw needs to create issues and drama, and it needs to heighten the stakes that will be reached at the climax. A lot of people don't like Dan Brown, but he's going to be my example here. A lot of people have read his books, or this applies to any Indiana Jones movie. So between the action scenes in those, there are puzzle scenes where the character is trying to solve some clue to get to the next location. New things are constantly happening. There's a new clue, and then a new location, and then a new foe, and it just keeps going. So even though you may not be writing those kinds of books, you need to take that lesson with you and apply it to your own genre so that new things are constantly happening. Romance is the same thing. Say your main character discovers something about their loved one or their love interest that changes everything, and then it sends them to a new location, maybe to a loved one's or another state, and it's going to change the main character's beliefs in some way by the end of the story. Number 2, make the most likely outcome not seem like the most likely outcome. This is great for plot twists as well because the reader has their eyes on one target the whole time. The writer makes them question again and again if the main character is going to reach that target or not, and then bam, plot twist at the end. This questioning comes during the middle, and it helps to raise the stakes. So are they going to make it? Aren't they? I'm going to use a movie here with one of the most iconic plot twists of all time, Fight Club. By the way, if you haven't seen it, I'll try not to spoil it, but there's no guarantees if you're good at inferring things. In the beginning, the main character realizes he has pretty much no meaning to his life, and he's become like a cubicle drone with insomnia. And then he meets Tyler. They form Fight Club. The entire time you're wondering if he's going to find this meaning that he's been searching for. Is he going to find it with Tyler when he quits his job, with a new love interest? We're focusing on the main character's fight out of this boring life, wondering if he's going to make it to happiness, when, bam, plot twist that is related to, but is not the target that we've been looking at the whole time. his fight out of the ordinary life. Tip number 3, direction and purpose. That sounds incredibly boring. Your story needs to be somewhat character-driven. Your character has to want something, which helps push the plot forward. The characters happen to the plot and not the other way around. If the plot happens to the character during the book, we're pretty much just seeing what their reactions to each thing is, what their reaction is going to be. We want proactive characters who by the end of the novel are brave enough to go after the villain. And they do this for their own reasons, not simply because they're the chosen one, which is it happens a lot in novels. If your character loses direction or it's not clear what their own direction is, what their motivation is supposed to be, the reader can become disinterested. I think it's a great exercise before writing to establish what your character's goals are and whether or not they alter or change at all during the course of the novel. Most of the times it's just alter. Completely changing can sometimes be jarring to the reader, and they can feel a little cheated, but that's a whole nother story. If you're a pantser, keep this in mind while writing. Your characters have to have a purpose. If they're just not interesting or you sense your novel is slowing down a little bit, stop and ask yourself, what is their goal and how do I use that to affect the plot? Number 4, use subplots. These are great in quest or hero plots, but use a smaller plot during the middle to get the character from point A to point B, or to introduce a new character who, without them, the main character can't reach their goal by the end. Good subplots tie into the main plot by the end of it. So I've done a book, and I've done a movie. I'm going to do a TV show now, and warning, this might be a little bit spoilery. Don't say I didn't warn you. Game of Thrones. And I'm talking about the TV show because I think more people have watched the show than have read the books at this point. But yes, this show has so many subplots. Just looking at one character here, Robb Stark, season 3, you all know where this is heading. He's on a mission to avenge his father by overthrowing the Lannisters, and that's his main plot. Subplot comes along of pretty girl, and then we all know what happens. The red wedding. That would not have happened without the subplot of the pretty girl. Subplots affect the main plot, but typically do not stem from the main plot. Since subplots come back to the main plot, they can add new intrigue and drama during what may have been a boring middle. What could have been a boring middle. Number 5, edit as much as the beginning and the end. This is a very broad tip. Like I said, many writers focus on nailing the beginning and the end, and what happens is they spend less time editing on the middle. It may be closer to first draft status than anything else in your book, so take your time and edit where you need to. Trim the fat, which are the boring parts of your story. Listen to your critique partners or your beta feedback or your editor feedback. If something is underdeveloped, develop it. If a character is boring, write them out of the story, combine them with another character, which I've done myself, or just beef up their story a little bit. Every story element can be to blame here, so you have to analyze each one during the editing phase to see which one of them could be the culprit to your mushy middle. I know this isn't a tip to avoid a sagging middle in your current novel, but it will be for your future novels. As writers, we get better, or we should get better with each book that we write. So while it may not feel like it's helping now, the lessons that you learn while you're editing will keep you from making the same mistakes again in the future with your future projects. Number 6, and perhaps the most important here, and I suppose the highlight, spotlight, make sure you do this if your middle isn't tight, increase the tension. Tension is a tricky devil, which is why I have a whole video on the topic coming out in a few weeks. But if your tension is lacking, readers may lose interest, making your middle seem like it's dragging on forever. Tension has to relate to the main character's quest to reach their final goal. So if to increase tension, you simply make them the victim of a hit and run, so you get readers worried about them, but it's not really connected, now their quest is put on hold. So something else better happen during that hold, something that moves the plot forward and the main character toward the climax of the story. Otherwise, it's pointless. Downtime is necessary in any story, but tension better follow shortly after, or things may get mushy. The reader may get a little bored. All right, that's all I have for today. As always, I hope this was super helpful. This is another video that was directly recommended by you guys and voted on by all of y'all, so click on that link down below if you have a topic that you'd like for me to cover, and then you can actually vote on your favorites as well. And I'm trying to do them in that order, but for those that haven't heard as well, I have a newsletter for my upcoming course specifically for writers. The link to get on that list is down below, and it gets you early access and discounts when those courses do go live, so you definitely want to get on that, and you'll be the first to know everything about it. Links to purchase my debut novel, The Elysian Prophecy, are down below. And follow me on all the social medias, especially Instagram. Even though I don't post pictures all the time, I'm most active there on Insta stories. All right, see you guys next week. Bye.